Viking Spotlight. This is a podcast about people, events, and projects in the North Canton City School District. I'm your host, Jeff Wendorf, and today we're going to do a little different podcast as we present the State of the Schools address for 2022. Instead of interviewing one or two people, we'll be talking to many different individuals from our district who will share a bit about their positions and the different projects or events that have taken place this year or will take place over the next year and what you can expect. We're going to talk curriculum here with Mr. David Pilati. He's our Associate Superintendent and in charge of all things curricular and teaching and learning. And welcome, Dave.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I think you were on a podcast previously. You talked a little bit about St. Baldrick's, I think, if I remember right.
Yep, back in probably March.
Great. Yeah, good. Well, we'd like to have you talk a little bit about Dave Pilati, first of all, and then also talk just a few highlights from this year and maybe what our listeners can expect next year in the area of curriculum.
Well, as far as myself, this is my 30th year in education. I started out as a high school math teacher at Minerva High School and grew up in Minerva, so I went back and taught at my alma mater, and that was after spending my college years at Bowling Green State University. So I taught high school math there for four years, and then I went up to Plain Local, and I spent 19 years at Plain Local, and the first few years as a high school math teacher, and then got into curriculum, and eventually I was an assistant principal at the high school level for a few years, and then eventually the curriculum director for Plain Local Schools. Left Plain Local after 19 years in 2015. Then I spent a year at the Starr County Educational Service Center as a curriculum consultant, and then after that I came here, and I'm about to complete my 6th year as the assistant superintendent here at North Canton City Schools, and I've got two children in school here, and I've got a daughter who is graduating high school here at Hoover this year.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And she's going to be going on to the University of Kentucky and studying public policy. And then I've got a son who is a sophomore, so he'll be a junior next year here at Hoover. And we'll be going through that process again here very soon with him.
It happens quick. Comes
sure
around
does.
quick.
Sure
Well,
does.
and it's hard to believe how quick 6 years goes.
It's gone fast, yeah.
It's
very
great.
fast.
Well, tell us a little bit about what's happening in the teaching learning roles this year, and what's been happening.
Well, it's been a busy couple of years, and it seems like a blur since COVID hit. A little over 2 years ago now. But I guess I'll highlight a couple of what I think are some of our bigger accomplishments this year, at least from a district level perspective. One of our goals this year was to increase students' math and literacy skills, and that was really due to the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic has had on student learning. Students were all remote for the last 10 weeks of the school year 2 years ago, and that had even though our teachers did such a great job, it had a tremendous impact, students being out for a quarter of the year. And then we had some students who chose to be remote last year, and so this was the first year that all students have been back together again. And I would say it's as close to normal as we've experienced, but it's still not been normal. But the COVID-19 pandemic just has had a huge impact on students' learning across the state and across the country. And some evidence of that is in the state of Ohio on the state test last spring in 2021, and that was the first year that state tests had occurred in Ohio since 2019 because they did not occur in 2020 because of COVID. The average passing percent on state tests dropped by almost 10% across the state. Now here in North Canton, it dropped by a little less than 5%. So we I guess you could say we weathered that pandemic a little bit better than the average school district. But we still went down, and we know that our students, some of our students are still struggling with their learning because of lost instruction or instruction that wasn't quite the same as what they were used to. So one of our major goals has really been to focus on math and literacy skills. And I think that from my view, what we've done as far as a very effective use of some of our federal stimulus money was that we put some additional staff and or additional instructional resources in the hands of our teachers. And as far as the staff goes, we increased, we have 11 right now reading specialists in our K-5 buildings who were part-time, and they were 4.5 hours per day. And we used some of those federal dollars to increase them to 5 3/4 hours per day. And that's a 28% increase in the amount of time that they're spending instructing students throughout the school day. So that helped a lot. We also increased our reading specialist position at the middle school from 4.5 hours a day to 5 or to full time. And then we added a full-time reading specialist at Hoover High School, and they never had a position like that before. And if somebody's wondering, what does a reading specialist do? A reading specialist is somebody who provides interventions in the area of reading and literacy skills. And, we have students that need that in our K-5 buildings, but we also have students that need that in our middle school and high school. So I think that's been one of our greater accomplishments. And then on the math side, we've done the same thing. We've added a full-time math specialist in every one of our K-12 buildings, and we never had math specialists prior to this school year. So they've been able to really provide a lot of additional support to our students who are struggling in the area of math.
Right.
In fact, the only building that had a math specialist before this year was the middle school, and we did, in that school, we took that math specialist from, we added a full-time math specialist, and we took the one that was part-time from 4.5 hours to 5.75 hours a day. So I think those have been some much needed supports,
right.
And we've heard from our principals and from our teachers and that they've been helpful, and those individuals will work one-on-one with students, or they'll work in small group with students, and sometimes they'll push into the classroom and help with the core instruction that takes place in the classroom.
So fundamentals, the pandemic was tough for everybody, but not being in class and not being at school was significant. And like you said, we did it better than most, I believe, and we had a less of an impact, but we still have kids that are in need, and reading and math are the key functions. If you don't read well, you're going to struggle in just about everything.
Yep. And I think, a couple other things we put in place for those students who struggle is we added another school psychologist, and we wanted to do that because our school psychologists were spending so much time in testing students to see if they qualify for special education, and then spending time writing up the reports, and then spending time in meetings going over those testing results, that they didn't have enough time to work directly with teachers to help prescribe interventions for students who need interventions and to help progress monitor those interventions. So by adding an additional school psychologist, we were able to lighten their testing and meeting and report writing load a little bit and give them each a little bit more time to spend working with teachers on interventions. And right. I think that's made a huge difference as well.
Ultimately serving kids.
Yeah, exactly, serving kids. And that's really why they all got into the business to begin with.
Right, great. What else has been going on? That's a big piece, and appreciate what you've done and your team's done to provide for intervention and enrichment for the kids that need it, and especially in reading and math.
Well, we added some teaching positions at various grade levels, and we wanted to do that to help reduce class sizes, not only to mitigate the impact of COVID and try to physical distance students as much as we could, but also to provide as much opportunity for teachers to personalize their learning and individualize their instruction. It's a little bit easier to do that if you have a class of 23 or 24 than if you have a class of 27 or 28. So we added a few staff members at various levels, and I think we also were able to provide our teachers with some resources, some instructional resources to help with instruction. A couple examples of those are a product called eSpark Learning. eSpark Learning is an online program that allows students to practice their skills in reading and math. We had used it in our 3rd through 5th grade buildings prior to this year, but we expanded that, and now we're using it in kindergarten through 5th grade. And then we also incorporated or integrated a product at the high school level called Math IXL and English IXL that's being used by some of our teachers as an online intervention tool with some students at the high school, and they really didn't have a tool like that before. So those are just a couple of, I think, a lot of the things that we've done this year, but I think those are some of the big things.
Great. And you mentioned the tools for teachers, and the interactions that our kids have with our teachers is paramount in getting them to advance in the curriculum and to grow academically. Yeah,
there's still no substitute, in my opinion, for that face-to-face interaction that a student and a teacher can have, and a student can have with other students in the classroom. There's a lot can be learned from group activities and working with each other, but there are a lot of great resources out there too to help students, not only struggling students, but to help stretch students as well. And so we're trying to provide as many of those tools as we can for our teachers and for our students.
Right, great. Well, thanks for your work this year. Appreciate it. What can if we can shift gears, if you're ready to talk about next year, what's coming at us curriculum-wise?
So we really don't plan to change the focus a whole lot. We want to still improve or focus on improving students' achievement and reducing those learning gaps that exist for some students. But there's one area that I'd like to talk about a little bit, and that is the area of social emotional learning.
Right.
A lot of people are probably not aware that the state of Ohio actually has social emotional learning, or as we often refer to it, SEL standards, that are to be taught in school buildings. And we've done our best in teaching those teaching those standards, but it's been tough. So we, at the K-5 level this year, we began using an SEL curriculum, and we'll expand upon that next year to teach more of the SEL standards. But next year at the middle school and at Hoover High School, we're going to dig deeper into the SEL curriculum at both of those buildings, as both of them are going to be working with a curriculum, two different curriculums that will focus on those SEL standards, and the delivery will look different at each of those buildings. But the end result is that we hope that there'll be a focus and will help students improve in the areas of understanding and managing their emotions, setting and achieving positive goals, showing empathy for each other, establishing and maintaining positive relationships, and making responsible decisions. These are things that are good for everybody, no matter what you do. And
right.
we think that'll help all students. And certainly, when you help to address a student's social emotional needs, you hopefully are the end result is you have a more well-rounded, healthier student who's able to learn more
right.
while they're in school.
Learn at higher levels.
Learn at higher levels and realize maybe a greater potential for themselves.
Right. Not only in their curriculum areas, but also, like the name of it, social emotional, so that they're able to function at high levels and are prepared for tomorrow. Awesome.
So we also have, this school year, we've had a committee of about 20 staff members who've been meeting throughout the year, focusing on something called trauma-informed and resilience-focused schools. And we will be taking that information and really helping to create a trauma-informed and resilience-focused culture in each of our school buildings next year. And what this means is we want to train all of our staff, and that's classified and certified staff, on, what is trauma. We have so many students and staff. I mean, all of us have experienced trauma to differing degrees throughout our lives, but we have some students who have experienced trauma to a pretty great degree, and others who have experienced it to a lesser degree, but maybe more frequent. So we want to make sure that our staff understands and can recognize the signs of trauma, and when a student is experiencing or exhibiting those signs, so that most importantly, they know that they can help their students. And then it's not only important to recognize the signs of somebody who's gone through trauma, but it's important, and probably more important, to be able to be trained on how to be resilience-focused in our practices. And what that means is we want our staff to focus on embedding practices into their daily instructional routines that will help students build resilience. I guess I define resilience as that ability to achieve positive mental, emotional, or social outcomes when you're faced with adversity. And certainly that's something that's good for all of us. And again, if we can improve those resilience skills in our students, then we can allow them to be more successful, not only inside the walls of our school buildings, but outside of the walls of our school buildings as well.
Right. Awesome. And that sounds a lot like, we've been talking all through our podcast to other directors of other areas, but we've all touched on relationships, and we've all touched on grit a little bit, and resilience and grit have a lot in common. Getting back up, having to know how to ask for help, and know where to get help or where to offer help to get kids the help they need to be successful.
It's funny you mentioned the relationship and the grit, and I have an interview question that I always ask every candidate, when they get to that level and they're interviewing with me, and I mentioned to them, I said, you're probably aware we have 4 values that we focus on: relationships, grit, integrity, and
yes.
Respect. Sorry,
yes,
relationships,
respect,
grit,
yes.
respect, and integrity. And I ask them to pick a couple and tell me how they'll try to reinforce those in their daily interactions with students. And almost every time, almost every candidate picks relationships as one of those 2 pieces, because they recognize the value of great relationships.
Right. Awesome. Great.
I guess the last change that we're looking at for next year is, people may or may not know that we have people in a position that we call family support specialists, and they work with our building care teams, who do a lot to provide support, non-academic supports to our students and to their families when they're in need. And we have 3 family support specialists this year, and they do a wonderful job. And This year we have a total, I think they're with us for 59 hours during the week, the three of them. And we're going to increase that to 87 hours a week next year because the need has increased in our district. We have students and we have families who are in need of things beyond just academics. And, it may be they're in need of clothing, they're in need of food, they might be in need of connecting to counseling or things like that. So we're really excited that we're going to be able to increase the hours of those three individuals, those three positions, and we think that'll help provide some much needed support to our students and our families.
That's fantastic. And their primary role is to work with our guidance and our teacher teams and our building teams to identify who needs resources and try to connect them to those resources and provide some, but also to make that connection.
Yeah.
And
teach them how to fish. They provide them some fish, but you want to teach people how to fish. And ultimately, it's about that whole child. And if you can take care of the social emotional, take care of the basic needs, then it's a lot easier for the child to come and be ready to learn.
Right. Awesome. Well, can't thank you enough. Anything else you want to share with our listeners?
Well, I was asked to share something unique about our department, the curriculum department. I couldn't really think of anything unique, so I guess what I just want to do is I want to take the time to recognize the great work that the department does. Collectively, there's 7 of us who have 176 years of experience. Wow. 5 of us are in our 28th year or beyond. And notice I said 5 of us. This is my 30th year, as I mentioned earlier. And then there's 2 people on the team that are in their 16th year or less. So they help keep us a little more young. But I just want to mention real quickly, Janet Peer does a great job as our testing coordinator. In addition, she's to being the preschool coordinator. And John Welch is our director of special services. And John has a tremendous amount of knowledge and a passion for helping students in special education. Julie Stengel is our special services and learning gap coordinator. Denise Cooley is our gifted and services and English learner services coordinator. Kim Knighty, our technology director, and Michelle Hostetler is our director of instruction. And all of these people have great expertise in their areas, and that's why they're in those areas. But the great thing about this team is they all have great expertise beyond those areas as well. Right. And I couldn't ask for a better group of people to work with, both as educators but also as friends.
Yeah, great. It's a fantastic team, and you're right. They're various levels of experience, but I tell you what, they all have a passion that is just unrivaled. Just fantastic group of people and what they're able to pull off and do for kids and do for teachers and to get folks what they need to be successful to, again, help our kids be prepared for tomorrow. Yep. Very good. Well, thank you for your role in that and leading that team, and what you do for our kids every day is just outstanding. Thanks
for having me. It's a great place to be. We have great staff and great kids, so they help make it a little bit easier to do great things.
We've talked a lot today about having a great staff, and you're part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, one of our other segments today, we wanted to talk to Mr. Varn about our performing arts summary for the year and what we can expect. And first off, Mr. Varn, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it very much.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit about Mr. Varn and who you are, what you do, and what your role is in the district.
Well, I'm Ron Varn. I'm Director of Instrumental Music at North Canton City Schools. I'm additionally the Department Chair for North Canton City Schools. And my primary job is to be the head band director and the head orchestra director. And so that's pretty much what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for coming. If you've missed our concerts and so on, reach out next time because they're fantastic, and it's great to see the kids perform. And approximately how many kids are in instrumental music in the district? Let me say it this way: K-12. That's the same, isn't it?
Yes.
Let me say it differently. Grades 9 through 12.
Okay, well, grades 9 through 12, we have about 212 students in the high school programs. That would be the band and the orchestra.
Great. Yep. Fantastic. All right. Well, what's been happening this year? What are some celebrations you have?
Well, there's got quite a few nice new things that have happened this year. It was nice to get back to our performances as we used to have pre-COVID times. We did have 2 new teachers this year. We hired Jessica Brister and Doug Beery. They were both welcomed in this year. Mrs. Brister, she taught music at Claremont Elementary, and Mr. Beery was hired as our new choral director at Hoover. We also have this year Mr. McAllister from North Canton Middle School. He teaches our theater arts class, and he will be retiring this year.
Right. Congratulations to him, and thank you for that, because that's a new class we offered at the middle school the last couple years, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the great things that happened this year, well, we had all of our ensembles, the marching band, the string orchestra, both concert and symphonic band, string choir, men's chorus, women's chorus, they all received superior ratings this year at state competition for all their different ensembles. Additionally, our middle school 7th and 8th grade orchestra and the 7th, 8th grade bands and 6th, 7th, and 8th grade choirs will be competing this Friday and Saturday for their state adjudicated event.
That doesn't happen very often, does it? Superior ratings for all of your performing groups. That's congratulations and thank you.
We're really proud of the kids, and it was nice to be back kind of to business as usual.
Right. And when business as usual is superior ratings, that's a cool thing.
We like to be able to have that great part of our program.
Yeah, and we wish our middle school and our feeder programs luck at their adjudicated events. Very cool.
We'll let them know, and if you want to come and hear them, they're both on, the bands are on Friday with the orchestra right after school. Our first group's at 4:30, and they continue every half hour. And then our choirs are on Saturday morning.
Okay. All at Hoover High School.
All at Hoover High School, yes.
Great.
No charge for anything. A couple other things that we had this year. We had our play, Hoover Play. That was a Clue. It was presented as well as our North Canton Middle School and Hoover High School. They both presented successful musicals this year.
They did.
So that was nice to have back, having audiences showing their applause and appreciation for the groups.
Right. We're so proud of our kids, and it's always, just to let them shine. And the talent of the kids in all levels, but in all those programs and productions was fantastic.
Thank you. Additional thing, we are getting ready to start our new 4th grade graduates into the band program if they want to start with us. We start actually May 31st. So you'll see Mr. Wolf at your intermediate building. He'll be coming around next week, and he'll be seeing you in your music classes. And so we hope to see a great number start with us this summer. It's free, and we'd love to have you join us.
So tell us about that. When he goes into the classes, does he share what the different instruments are, what they do, and let them play with them a little bit, I suppose?
That's what he does. We actually have one of our music stores in the area volunteers to bring in some retired music directors, band directors, that they let the kids try the instruments, and we kind of fit them for what would fit them the best.
Sure.
So they have the best success. And then, so Mr. Wolf then will tell them how to get signed up for our beginning classes, and boy, we get started. We finish graduation, and then the next day we're out here again doing it again. So we're real excited to get started.
Well, I tell you, if there's one thing that this guy wishes, that he would have participated at a higher level in his music, because it's a lifelong skill, and it's just very cool.
Thank you. We appreciate
kids
it.
Grow. Yeah.
One other thing is if you're coming to graduation, you'll see our choral group will be performing at graduation, as well as we have a small band ensemble that'll be playing, a little brass ensemble that plays for graduation. Additionally, our band will be marching in the Memorial Day Parade for the first time since pre-COVID. Oh. So we're kind of happy to get back to, again, business a little bit, business as normal, and be able to honor our veterans as we like to do.
Right. That's been a great program, and paused a little bit by COVID, but that's fantastic. And then probably later in the summer you have the Hall of Fame parade, and then it begins again, doesn't it?
It begins all again.
Yes.
We're looking forward to it. Our marching band starts up in earnest on July the 12th. So once we start, it's nonstop.
Yeah, so that's fantastic. And you start, like you said, right away with the middle school program, and actually the intermediate program.
Correct.
5th grade. Fantastic.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, good. Well, anything else you want to share about your programs? Or
that's pretty much what we're doing right now. Kind of just full steam ahead to the end of the year, and then pick it up and start all over.
Right. It comes around fast, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
Folks think that we shut down for the summer, and you certainly don't. I know that.
We just called gear up. We don't ever rebuild. We just gear up.
Right. You fine tune. You got to tune your instruments once in a while.
That's exactly right.
Good. Well, we sure are proud of our kids. We're proud of our staff and you for what you do for our kids, and certainly the level of programs that you put out and our kids put out. And it's just a thrill to watch them perform, whether it's on the marching band field or in the concerts or musicals. And so congratulations and thank you.
Thank you very much for having us here today.
Absolutely. All right, shifting gears, changing innings here. We have our guest now is Mr. Tom Oakes. He's our athletic director. And Mr. Oakes, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in the district, and also a little bit of a review of athletics and what we can expect next year.
Yes, Jeff, thank you for having me. We are finishing up my first year here as athletic director at North Canton Hoover High School, and 24th year overall, 14 as a teacher, and the previous 9 as associate principal. But no, it's been an exciting year. We've had some learning moments going through it the first time, and certainly some good learning moments, and looking forward to not only next year but future years as well, and making sure that we don't make some of those same mistakes twice.
Absolutely. That's part of learning, our continuous improvement model, right? Always
Absolutely.
Getting better. And thanks for your service. 24 years in the district. That's great. That's appreciate that. That's fun.
It's been a great community to work for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how'd we do this year in athletics?
You know what? We're finishing pretty strong. I don't have the exact Federal League standings in front of me right now, but I do believe we'll probably finish second in the All Sports League title. In the fall, obviously, we had football and girls tennis, which won Federal League championships outright. In the wintertime, girls swimming won an outright league title. Boys swimming tied with 2 other schools for their league title. And last night's walk-off extra inning base hit by Sadie Carroll confirmed that we are at least going to share the softball league championship, and hopefully we have one of 2 opportunities tonight and Thursday to claim it outright.
That's awesome. Great. So that's Federal League championships. We've had some stellar performances at the state level and some other things, regionals and so on. But any other highlights from this year of what our folks saw in the paper and can review?
Well, as far as individual highlights goes, I know in the fall we did have Blaze Victor qualify for the state meet in cross country. And then we had 10 individuals qualify for the state competition in boys and girls swimming, 5 on each side. Hopefully, like I say, the spring is always an interesting thing. I know we have some individual performers in track and field that would have the potential to potentially qualify for state competition. Also, as I said, teams can get hot at the right time. We have 2 very good boys and girls lacrosse programs right now that are playing. They're playing great and could potentially host 2 home games each in the state competition coming up here starting next week. Girls softball, everybody knows that Stark County is the hotbed for girls Division I softball. A lot of state champions come out of the Federal League and the Stark County area over the past 10, 20 years. So certainly, at least clinching a tie of it, if not an outright title, hopefully tonight. Gives us a good opportunity to make a long run in postseason play there. And I think our baseball team's going to get hot at the right time. I know they put up some runs the last couple of days, getting some momentum, getting some good weather. And let's see if our senior leadership on that team can provide a good postseason run as well.
Right. We're nearly mid-May, and things wrap up in just the next few weeks, so it comes fast. And you're right. Timing is key for tournament time, right? Yep.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, a couple details, and I know we've chatted about this before, but how many student athletes approximately? Just a rough number?
Oh, we're well over 400, which compromises a good portion, at least 1/3, if not close to 40% of our student population. Huge believer that number one, keeping kids participating in sports, gets them around good role models in our head coaches, gets them around good teammates. Keeps them out of some trouble from time to time, which is not a bad thing either. And also the most important thing, obviously, in our athletic program is we do focus on the word student athlete, and we want them to be students first. And we're proud of the accomplishments that they've had in the classroom and certainly on the field of competition as well.
Right. Yeah. I know you track GPAs and some other things, and we know that kids that are involved in activities, whether it's athletics, which you said we have well over 400, or music, performing arts, or the fine arts, and a large majority of our kids participate in extracurricular activities, and whether that's athletics or arts or some other clubs and so on. So that's a great thing. And educational athletics is very important. The Ohio High School Athletic Association tries to keep that model in play as we do tournaments and so on. What about next year? Any big changes in what's going to happen next year in Hoover Athletics?
Next year, we're going to try to keep things as close to status quo as possible. I know the first year was, for me personally, let's see what's out there. We are going to make some subtle changes, but nothing I think that's going to be too dramatic. Probably the biggest thing is we're going to continue to work with our district leadership and see what we can do to improve athletic facilities. Obviously, the goal right now is to have a new stadium project started after the completion of football season. We do have new turf that's going in this summer on the football field. A new reconditioned basketball court will be done in our main high school gym here throughout the month of July, which we're excited about. And, certainly, like I say, we try to pride ourselves in this community, and our community does a great job of supporting the academics, the arts, and the athletics. I know there's going to be some construction on the south side of our football field with the new transportation office and for the busing, which I think is outstanding. But at the same time, there's going to be some growing pains next year with maybe parking for football and how we've entered football games before. So we need to fine-tune that information throughout the summer, working with our district leadership, and hopefully we'll have some information out here prior to the start of football of how to enter our gates and where to park and different items like that.
Right. So we'll communicate those as we kick those projects off, and we'll make sure and communicate thoroughly with that on those for those event and those venues. One of the changes I guess we saw that I wanted to highlight and congratulate you on how you transformed into this, and a little bit of it was the year before, but our ticketing system has changed quite a bit in the last few years, and mostly this year. But we're all online, so no cash payment at the venues, and 99.9% of the folks have not had a problem. But I think our ushers and our ticket takers has helped those that have. Can you tell us a little bit about the system and how it works?
Yeah, we've moved to hometown ticketing since the past 2 years. Obviously, 2 years ago with COVID, a lot of our attendance at athletic events was friends and family. To be honest with you, it was limited enrollment due to state standards that were in place and conditions that needed to be met for safety and health protocols. But this year was the first full year of the gates being open, no restrictions to ticketing, and having it all online. It's went rather smooth. Obviously, you're going to have some pushback, perhaps from individuals that love cash and love to show up maybe 5 minutes prior to the game making a last-second decision. And we want to support those people, and we want them to be at our games as well, too. But ultimately, we've went to hometown ticketing. Our entire Federal League has gone to hometown ticketing, and a good portion of Northeast Ohio has some online ticketing in place, whether it's hometown ticketing or a different vendor. But it's worked rather well. We do have some bugs we're trying to iron out. Obviously, one of the things we improved this year was kind of having ticket kiosks, and maybe some individuals at times were a little confused of what that meant. But basically, we do have iPads at our sporting events with hotspots available if the wireless connection is not good, and people can buy tickets on our iPads. Some people are uncomfortable putting their credit card information on a public device, and I understand that completely. So we also started having QR scanning codes that people could use their own devices, scan into, put their own credit card into their own phone, and purchase tickets as well too. But for the most part, it has gone well. We hope that it's a trend that people become more accustomed to and feel more comfortable doing in the future. And the other thing is, I know sometimes change is difficult, including for myself. I'll be the first person to speak about that, but I don't see it going away either at this point in time. Right. I see us sticking with the online process, and as I've always told people, including one person that called about a softball ticket for tomorrow today, if you're having problems, please stop by Hoover High School. Please come to door number 1. please ask to come into the athletic office. We will help you purchase a ticket.
Right.
We just need to make sure that you have a credit card that is working and available.
That's right. That's what I was going to say was if you have any questions at all, call or reach out or stop by the high school athletic office. They're certainly more than happy to help, and even at the events, we're able to help you at the gate if you need to. But if you take an extra 5 minutes in your car, do it on your phone, you hop out, and it's ready to go once you get to the gate. So it's been a good thing, and I know it's been advantageous for you to know what our number of tickets sold and our folks that are at the games, what that level is on the fly, and that's been pretty neat to be able to have some information for you to know what our ticket sales are for each event.
Yep.
Yeah. We also use the same system or a similar system for our performing arts, our musicals, our plays, and so on. And when we sell tickets, you can buy your seats right through that. So that's a great thing. But, we sure are proud of our kids and our coaches and our programs, and we appreciate you leading them in the way you do. Our kids that are Vikings, we sure do enjoy seeing them participate and have some track and some spring sports here coming up that are finishing up. But anything else you want to share about athletics?
Yeah, one final thing I would like to say is I'd like to thank our coaches for accepting me and my leadership styles and communication styles throughout the course of the year. They've been great, and as I tell parents all the time, when we look to select coaches, we look to select coaches that are great communicators with kids, that have pride in our community, because it is a special place to live and a special place to grow up and watch kids compete. And, they've been great. Like I say, I always try to say, would I want my son or my daughter to play for this individual? If the answer is yes, then obviously, I have great trust and great respect and rapport for those head coaches that we have. The other thing is I want to thank all the people behind the scenes that don't get thanked throughout the course of the year. I've got two people that work at the stadium, in Adam and Brad, that just are phenomenal. They take great pride in our facilities, making sure they're clean for each event, making sure that we don't get rained out if we can do anything possible, especially with the wonderful weather we've had this spring. But Adam and Brad do just a great job behind the scenes, that if you ever see them out at the games and so forth, please thank them. They are wonderful. Please thank our booster clubs for running concessions and different things at all of our events this year. I mean, those are family members that sometimes, are sacrificing maybe getting to watch their loved one play one evening just to help benefit the program. So special thanks to those that have worked concessions this year for our different events from booster clubs. Special thanks to Kathy Snyder and our ticket scanners this year. They've been phenomenal with the changes, with hometown ticketing, with being prepared, being on time. Sometimes they're the first person that, takes the brunt of the message. And I always tell them that they're not upset with you. They're upset with the process.
Right.
And, but they do a wonderful job, and they are really dedicated, not only to Hoover High School and their respective buildings, but they're dedicated to our athletic program and do a phenomenal job. And, last but certainly not least, I certainly want to thank Lou Ann Smith. She has done great things for many, many years in our athletic office, dating back to when I was middle school AD. And she has continued to do great things, and I appreciate the service she's had with North Canton Hoover Athletics.
Great. Thank you. And you left one out, Mr. Tom Oakes, Director of Athletics. Thanks. I started the podcast out having conversations about our staff, and I think you're right. Our coaching staff, our support staff, and everybody they're people that want your kids to hang around with. That you feel good about that. And I think the world's headed in the right direction if our kids can hang out with our staff. I think that's a great thing. So thank you very much. And to wrap up the athletic segment, go Vikings.
Go Vikings, Jeff. Thank you.